Hello everybody, and welcome to my Commander Liara Portyr cPDH deck tech video. This is my list that is on the database. It is an affinity-based mid-range list. Commander Liara Portyr is a 5-mana Boros commander. Whenever you attack, she lets you exile the top X cards from your deck, where X is the number of opponents you attacked. You can play them this turn, and they cost X less, where X is the number of opponents you attacked. This is a mid-range list that does not play any combo at the moment. I used to play the Mirror Retriever Loop combo. You can find more about that in the primer, along with a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about today. I don't think it's very viable even in this list. So this deck, being affinity-based, gets to play Mirror Enforcer and Sojourner's Companion, which are 4/4s with affinity for artifacts, which will usually cost anywhere from 0 to 3, which means if we hit them with Liara, they're usually 0 mana 4/4s, which is very strong in this format. The only thing that can really block that is a Gurmag Angler or some of the green creatures. Then we can start talking about the card draw in the deck. In this deck, a lot of the card draw that we want to play is permanent based, so that Liara can use it for multiple purposes. For instance, the creatures like Sky Scanner and Inspiring Overseer have evasion, so they're easy to get Liara triggers with, and they draw cards. Or cards like Reckless Impulse and Galvanic Relay, which draw cards by exiling, also known as Impulse Draw, which means that their cost will still get reduced by Liara. We also have Monarch in the deck, which not only draws us cards, but encourages other people to attack each other, which helps lower the life total around the table, which makes it easier for us to get the kills. We run the 2 red counter spells with Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast. Being able to resolve Liara is very important, and protecting her from bounce spells is important as well, since we can give her indestructible with some of our effects. So these are very powerful. They can also stop a lot of combos, as a lot of combos involve blue cards. Next up, we have ETB damage triggers. We've got 2 creatures that deal damage whenever artifacts come into play, and 1 creature that deals damage whenever other creatures come into play. If we look at our countdown here, we can see we have 34 creatures and 36 artifacts. So these guys will get a lot of triggers. It's not unreasonable to estimate that they'll get anywhere from 4 to 6 damage a turn, especially if you have multiple of them out. For instance, if you have Reckless Fireweaver and Witty Roastmaster in play, an artifact creature will deal 2 damage on ETB to each opponent. So dealing 6 damage on ETB is no small thing. Pegasus Guardian is a very strong card in this deck. If we look, we see first off, there is the instant speed Rescue the Fool. This is just a flicker spell for 2 mana. This can help us protect one of our creatures in play from a removal spell. However, the way that this works with Liara is very interesting, because when we cast that adventure, Pegasus Guardian goes into exile, which means if we have a Liara trigger for 3 on a turn after we cast the adventure part of this card, the Pegasus Guardian's cost will also be reduced, giving us a 3 mana 3/3 flyer that makes more flyers, which is very powerful. We have 2 very strong pieces of Grave Hate. We're playing Relic of Progenitus because we don't care about our graveyards, and it replaces itself, and Honored Heirloom is ramp, which is very necessary for this deck. Next up, we've got some creatures that are played specifically for Liara. We've got some very cheap artifact creatures that will cost 0 most of the time when we hit them off of Liara. Most of these have some form of evasion. Flayer Husk is also an equipment that can help pump creatures if necessary. And we've also got some Myriad creatures. Now, whenever you have a Myriad creature out and it attacks while Liara is in play, you can stack the triggers so that Myriad resolves first, makes multiple copies of the creature, and then Liara's trigger resolves, getting you X equals 3 off of a single creature attacking. Dark Dweller Oracle is a very powerful card in this list. It's currently marked as a mana outlet from when I did play the Retriever Loop combo. However, it's still absurd in this list, as it allows you to convert any extra bodies that you have that you're not finding any use for into more card draw to search for a win condition. And those cards are exiled, which means Liara's trigger affects them. Next up, we have our suite of protection spells. Most of these are permanents, so they stay in play, and we can use them repeatedly or later. We've got Stave Off as an instant speed protection spell that can also target opponent's creatures to stop combos. Blessed Hippogriff is another adventure creature with a protection effect as its adventure, so very good for protecting Liara, and is also an evasive creature afterwards that gives extra evasion to another creature. We've also got Fanatical Devotion, which is another card that allows us to use extra bodies as protection. It's also very good in the instance of a board wipe, where we can protect half of our board. Then we can look at our ramp. This list runs 16 pieces of ramp because it is so important to have early game ramp so we can cast Liara as soon as possible. Liara is what really gets the ball rolling on this deck. We want to play ramp that has multiple uses in this deck as well. For example, our mana dorks are creatures, which means they can be used for Liara triggers. We've also got cards like Bonder's Ornament, the Clue Stone and Locket, so on and so forth, which can draw cards. And once again, we have the Honored Heirloom as a strong piece of Grave Hate, in addition to being a mana rock. Next up, we have our removal suite. Now, we do still play a lot of the staple removal cards, such as Lightning Bolt, Scred, and Abrade. However, we also get to play some more permanent-based removal, such as Pyrite Spellbomb, Cathar Commando, and Dispeller's Capsule, due to the fact that we can cast these when we find them with Liara, and then use them later. Sometimes when you exile something like a Lightning Bolt, none of your opponents have anything that Lightning Bolt is worth casting on. So that always feels bad. So having permanent-based removal that we can use later is very strong. One card that is questionable in this list is Shattering Pulse. Being able to cast the buyback version of the spell for 2 when you hit it with Liara is strong, due to the fact that buyback is an additional cost, and therefore it gets reduced with Liara. However, it really depends on how much you care about artifacts in your meta. Rolling Thunder I've found to be an absolute all-star for this deck. Not only does this give us access to a one-sided board wipe for a creature-heavy deck, but also Liara reducing the cost of the X by 3 is very strong, and this is a win condition. Sometimes you will take out 2 players and then have 1 player left with 10 health or so, but it's late game and you just cast a Rolling Thunder where X equals their health and target it all at their face, and it feels so good, and it is so strong. We also have our 1 board wipe in the deck, our Clan Shaman. This does not hit flyers, so it won't wipe our evasive creatures, and it also gives us an artifact sack outlet for cards like Ichor Wellspring. And finally, we have the mana base. I like to run a very light, non-basic package. I run all of the artifact lands, only one of which comes in tapped, and the only other tapped land is the Lorehold Campus, which gives us some extra card filtering in the late game if necessary. We also play a command tower. This not only helps us gain more snow lands to make Scred more consistent, this deck also really needs lands to not enter tapped. So by only playing 2 tapped lands, it is much more likely that we hit Liara on curve. We're also playing 34 lands because we don't want to hit too many lands off of Liara's triggers, as we're not allowed to play lands with Liara. If we take a quick glance through the primer, you will see that we have some explanations on why you would want to play this deck, how we want to play it, a general overview of some of the intricacies that I have discussed already, such as how myriad creatures work with Liara, the combo if you want to play it, and some of my card selections, which was the whole purpose of this video. And finally, probably the most important part of this primer, if you really want to dig into this deck, is the statistics. This is me looking at the numbers of creatures and artifacts and ramp pieces and cheap creatures that I'm playing, and figuring out how likely it is that you get Liara on turn 4. How likely it is that you're able to get strong Liara triggers in the early game to help you begin snowballing, and how you might want to modify those numbers if you don't like the percentages that you're seeing here. I'll also have some gameplay videos below. There's currently only one, but I have a couple more to put on here, and I'll make sure to do that very soon. So that brings us to the end of my Commander Liara Portyr deck tech video. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed and learned something about this deck. I think it's a very strong deck. It's very strong in the current meta that I play in. People are wanting to play more of that mid-game and playing a lot more creature-heavy decks, so it's easier to get away with not playing blue because you don't have to counter all of the combos. Additionally, this is a very cheap deck. My list currently coming in at $38, so it's very easy to get a hold of in paper as well. Additionally, it's a legendary creature, so if you want to play this at EDH tables, you can. I know that someone on Discord has messaged me telling me they were playing my list at EDH tables and still doing well. Obviously, it won't work at a competitive EDH table, but at some of your more casual tables, this is still a strong pick. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment down below if you would like to see another deck tech video or some more gameplay from this commander, and be sure to subscribe if you're not already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.